So without further ado, let's bring Natalie up to the stage here, this stage of ours. So your presenter today has taken, I've watched her come, step on in. I've watched her come from just asking questions like, hey, I'm thinking about maybe getting into crypto. I don't know how long ago that was. And then becoming like an expert. And she's humble, so I'm going to brag for her. But she really has added such great value to our crypto channel, which I encourage you again all to join, and is helped to walk through just over time, over these months and years now, what it's like to start and then to get up to speed and then get references on different aspects and all this. So I'm really excited to hear what she has to say. Let's all give Natalie a warm welcome.
All right, thank you for coming. As you know, today's talk's about cryptocurrency. And we're going to be covering a lot of topics. We're not going to get into real depth on any one of them. It's to give you guys a really good overview, especially if you're not in this space already, so that you have something to kind of springboard off and do more research if there's an area of this that interests you. So we're going to talk what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain, use cases for it, what are altcoins, how to buy and sell cryptocurrency, types of investing, how to get involved, wallets and computer security, which is super important in this field. And then these slides are going to be available, by the way. I've included as much as I can in terms of resources and links and terminology. So you'll be able to download this later. I'll be posting it up in Slack. So here's a famous disclaimer, all right? Nothing in this presentation or any private correspondence or anything communicated through Twitter, Slack, or other mode of communication constitutes financial advice, all right? I'm not a financial advisor. I hold no formal qualifications in this area. Okay, so this presentation is for the purpose of just my sharing of my personal experience and knowledge. Always do your own research and your own due diligence. No projects, links, or anything, resources that are in this presentation are officially endorsed by me. If you choose to get involved or even invest in cryptocurrency, only do that with money you're willing to lose because it's still an extremely speculative space. So a little bit about me. So my name is Natalie. I'm known in Slack as Botternaut. My day job, I'm a systems administrator and support team lead for a web hosting and cloud hosting company. And my afternoon night job is basically this. And my husband's back in the room, and I think he can kind of confirm that that's pretty much what I spend most of my evenings and nights doing. So I got officially involved. I mean, it's not the first time I touched Bitcoin, but like really dug in about 9 months ago in May 2017. And I do want to thank someone. He's not here today, but Chad speaks once in a while. He spoke a lot about Monero, and that kind of planted a seed for me, wanting to learn more about the space and about trading. So that's what's nice about coming to these meetings, is sometimes there's topics that you wouldn't necessarily be exposed to or even know you might be interested in, but then you hear someone talk about it, and you get a little bug in your head where you kind of want to learn more. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way? Okay. So I first started off with mining cryptocurrency, first with Ethereum, and now I'm doing some other altcoins. That's how I kind of got my feet wet to understand the technology and just the space. Then I became interested in trading and investing shortly after that, which is now my main focus. I'm still mining, but that's all set up. It's kind of just set it and forget it at this point. So what is cryptocurrency? This is the definition from Wikipedia. It does a pretty good job of explaining it. Basically, it's a digital asset that's designed to work as a medium of exchange that uses cryptography to secure its transactions, to control the creation of additional units, and to verify the transfer of those assets. Cryptocurrencies are classified as a subset of digital currencies and are also classified as a subset of alternative currencies and virtual currencies. Now, Bitcoin was created in 2009, and that was the first decentralized cryptocurrency. Since then, many other cryptocurrencies have been created. They're frequently called altcoins, and or shitcoins that exist everywhere. So basically, Bitcoin and its derivatives use centralized control as opposed to centralized electronic money and central banking systems. So that's the major difference. There's no banks, there's no middlemen. The decentralized controls related to the use of Bitcoin's blockchain transaction database and the role of a distributed ledger. So it's important to also understand what blockchain is. Just a brief 2-minute video to really give you a good idea. It's a little better than me trying to explain it, I think.
When you vote, have you ever wondered whether your ballot is actually counted? If you meet someone online, how do you know they're who they say they are? When you buy coffee that's labeled fair trade, what makes you so certain of its origin? To be sure, really sure, about any of those questions, you'd need a system where records could be stored, facts could be verified by anyone, and security is guaranteed. That way, no one could cheat the system by editing records, because everyone using the system would be watching. Systems like this are on the horizon, and the software that powers them is called a blockchain. Blockchains store information across a network of personal computers, making them not just decentralized, but distributed. This means no central company or person owns the system, yet everyone can use it and help run it. This is important because it means it's difficult for any one person to take down the network or corrupt it. The people who run the system use their computer to hold bundles of records submitted by others, known as blocks, in a chronological chain. The blockchain uses a form of math called cryptography to ensure that records can't be counterfeited or changed by anyone else. You've probably heard of the blockchain's first killer app, a form of digital cash called Bitcoin that you can send to anyone, even a complete stranger. Bitcoin is different from credit cards, PayPal, or other ways to send money because there isn't a bank or financial middleman involved. Instead, people from all over the world help move the digital money by validating others' Bitcoin transactions with their personal computers, earning a small fee in the process. Bitcoin uses the blockchain by tracking records of ownership over this digital cash, so only one person can be the owner at a time and the cash can't be spent twice, like counterfeit money in the physical world can. But Bitcoin is just the beginning for blockchains. In the future, blockchains that manage and verify online data could enable us to launch companies that are entirely run by algorithms, making self-driving cars safer, help us protect our online identities, and even track the billions of devices on the Internet of Things. These innovations will change our lives forever, and it's all just beginning. To learn more about the urgent future of the blockchain, please visit iftf.org/blockchainfuture.
Okay, this is just part of the slides, and it was mostly in case the video wouldn't play. You can read that later. All right, so one question that comes up a lot in this is, okay, blockchain's cool and everything, but does it need to have cryptocurrency? Do you have to have Bitcoin or altcoins in order to have this blockchain? And the answer is yes and no. So blockchain works as a trust protocol to coordinate possibly untrusting entities. So whether cryptocurrency or tokens are needed mostly depends if it's a public or a private blockchain. There's similarities to both. Both are decentralized peer-to-peer networks, where each participant maintains a replica of a shared append-only ledger of digitally signed transactions. Both maintain the replicas in sync through a protocol referred to as consensus, and both provide certain guarantees on the immutability of the ledger, even when some participants might be faulty or malicious. So they both serve the same types of purpose. Now, public blockchain, this is a quote, and I have a couple of references of this for more information, but a public blockchain, so the tokens that make up cryptocurrencies, from Bitcoin to Ethereum to Monero, are the means by which one participates in the public protocols. So this is not optional when it comes to a public blockchain, right? It's a fundamental feature of the technology to have some sort of cryptocurrency to make all that work. Proof of work, proof of stake, you might have heard of those terms. That's all part of the distributed consensus. When it comes to a private blockchain, and that's something that enterprises mostly would be interested in using, full anonymity isn't necessary, like a public blockchain. Using public consensus algorithm like proof of work is no longer necessary because they can use something called ring signatures, which allow them to achieve a majority vote effect. When the minimum threshold of signatures is met, the information is said to be validated and appended to the blockchain. This consensus style allows for most of the properties of blockchains without using a native token. But because validation can be performed only by a limited subset of all participants, it's said to be a private chain. So that's the difference between a public and a private blockchain. use cases. So there's a reason why I put a really long list here. There's a couple of accidental duplicates though, but a lot of people when they hear about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, that's really all they hear about. They hear about Bitcoin. They hear on the news that Bitcoin went up to 10,000 and then it fell back to 5. Or, they don't really understand though, like, other than it being maybe like a way to send payments from one person to another, like, what is this all about? And it's a whole lot bigger than just Bitcoin. And that's what I want to relay here. It's really going to be a huge part of our future, I feel, and that's why it's important to see if there's some part of it that interests you and get involved as early as you can. So payments and money transfers, store of value, Venezuela and Greece. Venezuela, unfortunately, I mean, everyone's heard about how their hyperinflation caused their money to like go down to nothing. Well, some smart people actually threw their money into Bitcoin when that was happening. That was for them, as volatile as Bitcoin can be, that was a better store of value for them than the Venezuelan money. And they came out ahead on that too. Greece. There's actually one famous person, I'll mention him later in the resources. He has a lot of videos on YouTube. He goes around the world talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency. He's from Greece, and he advised his mother a while back before the economy basically collapsed in the banking system. And he basically said, Mom, take your money out of your bank, put it in Bitcoin. That's not an easy conversation to have with someone who doesn't really understand like, why, but she did it. Next thing you know, the Greek government basically took 20% of everybody's bank accounts. So, that was a store of value there too. It could be used for smart contracts, which are basically some sort of agreement. It could be a legal agreement, it could be a business agreement, but it's something that's programmable. So, for example, let's say I have a business and I'm having some items manufactured for me. And let's say the deal is, okay, if you deliver by a certain date, we've agreed on a price, this is what I'm going to pay you. If you agree, if you're 30 days late, this is what I'm going to pay you. Things like that can be totally automated and a lot more through things like smart contracts. Audit trails, so things like voting and fundraising, especially fundraising. I mean, how do you know that all the money that you've donated to an organization, like how much of that actually goes to the needy? You don't know, but with something like blockchain, that can be recorded in a way that can't be changed and that can be perfectly tracked. Digital identity, real estate. So a big use I think that we're going to see eventually is things like property titles being stored on blockchain. Instead of each county having their own records, their own computer records or paper records, having it on a blockchain where it's easily accessible to everyone from anywhere, basically. And again, can't be changed, can't be modified or anything like that. And you have a trail. This person owned the house now, it's sold to this person, and so on. Supply chain control and management, anti-fraud, we'll talk about that in a minute. Online gambling, maybe you're on a casino site. Like, how do you know that they're really using random algorithms fairly? How do they, maybe they have more of a house advantage than you think. Well, there's projects coming out for online gambling where they're committed to doing everything through blockchain, so it's all verifiable, and anyone can look at it and know that they're being honest about how all that's being calculated. Decentralized internet, decentralized social networking sites. So think of, it's the same idea with peer-to-peer in a way that it just can't be taken down. So peer-to-peer anything, really. Stock exchange trading can really change that aspect as well. Instant settlement, reducing costs. Right now it can take several days to settle a transaction when you do sell or buy stocks. Distributed cloud storage and computing, networking, Internet of Things, and green energy. There's even some projects now that are actually in pilot where they have a whole community of people that have solar power, solar panels. They're generating their own electricity, and between the community and through blockchain and cryptocurrency, they're able to sell their unused power to their neighbors. So their neighbors are able to buy power as well, cheaper than they would from the power company, just through that community, through this ecosystem. And I'm going to go through just like a couple of really good use cases. So food safety. Walmart recently completed 2 blockchain pilot projects. Prior to using blockchain, Walmart conducted a traceback test on mangoes in one of its stores. And it took 6 days, 18 hours, and 26 minutes to trace the mangoes, to trace its mangoes back to one of its stores. back to the original farm. Okay? By using blockchain, Walmart can provide all that information for themselves or to the consumer in 2.2 seconds. That's a huge difference. During an outbreak of a disease or contamination, 6 days is an eternity. So you can save lives by using blockchain. Not to mention, all these farms, all these stores, they don't know which mangoes are contaminated because they don't really know like the whole food chain of where everything came from. So the stores have to take everything off the shelves. The farmers can't sell the mangoes that they've already taken off the tree, so they're just going to spoil. So imagine having this information in 2 seconds versus 6 days. Preventing fraud. Is this product really organic? Where does it come from? Which farm? When did it actually make it to the store? How long has this apple been sitting here? That's the kind of information that will be available. Humanitarian projects, so like the Syrian refugee crisis. The United Nations World Food Program used Ethereum to direct resources to thousands of Syrian refugees by giving them cryptocurrency-based vouchers that they could then redeem in participating markets. All funds received by the refugees from that program were specifically used to purchase the food items, such as olive oil, pasta, lentils, so they were able to verify that all the money that was donated to them actually got used in that way. Banking the unbanked. So blockchain can act as a bank-like institution for people that don't have bank accounts. Now, in the Western world, that's not really as much of an issue, but in the rest of the world, it actually is. So as long as you have access to a smartphone, you'll have a way to conveniently access money without being charged to transfer money the way you would with a typical financial institution. The technology tackles two huge variables of global poverty. First, it makes sending money cheaper for migrants, immigrants, and refugees who need to send the money back to their families. And second, it makes doing business with hard-to-reach countries more convenient. And there's this. I don't know if you guys have heard about this CryptoKitty phase. I don't know where it started from, but like a month or 2 months ago, out of nowhere, there was this fad. It's kind of like collecting Pokemon cards, except it's like these digital crypto kitties. They have DNA, they all look different, you buy them, you breed them, you sell them, you own them. Now, the interesting thing about this is, there's some interesting things I'll cover next, but this was so popular that it completely clogged the Ethernet network. So a transaction that has nothing to do with CryptoKitties, you're just trying to transfer something somewhere that would normally take seconds, literally took hours and hours because of how clogged the network was because of this. And that's what the Ethereum network looked like when the CryptoKitties came out. So all kidding aside though, there actually was a positive side to that whole CryptoKitty thing. Now there's crypto zombies, whatever. It's actually, you can look at it as like a learning experience. So let's say you're in here and maybe you're a programmer or you want to learn more programming, you want to learn about smart contracts or blockchain. That's probably a good way to get your feet wet and do some stuff, relating to this in a kind of fun way. So I did include a couple of links that can get you started. The whole thing also, helped. Any media attention that's brought to the space is good, and that definitely was on the news, I think, about the whole CryptoKitty frenzy. And it also showed something interesting in that it highlighted that the same technology that these cryptocurrencies are using can be used to track ownership of other digital assets and real assets. So we discussed real estate, but also art, graphics, trademarks, copyright. So these are other uses that can be used in the exact same way. I know you can't see that from here, I'm just including it in the slides, but basically it highlights how big this ecosystem is becoming. From currencies to payments, privacy coins, all kinds of developer tools for smart contracts, security, legal, interoperability, which is extremely important because all these projects are building their own blockchains, and at some point you're going to want this blockchain to be able to talk to this blockchain and so on. So tools that are able to bring all that together, I think is going to become really interesting and popular going forward. Communication, identity, security, we mentioned, fintech, insurance, lending, file storage, supercomputing, Internet of Things, ticketing, gambling, virtual reality, sports, game, there's just, it's anything you can think of can probably, it doesn't mean it should be, but there are good uses for a lot of things to actually be done through blockchain. So another big area is trading and investing. That's how a lot of people kind of find their way in, is that they're like, oh, Bitcoin went up so much, maybe I should take a look at this. That's an aspect too. Just like stocks and other things, there's different ways to invest. So you can do a long-term hold where you buy something and just hang on to it. So you would invest in Bitcoin or altcoins that you really believe are going to succeed in the long term and appreciate in value. If you hold for longer than a year, those long-term, it's subject to long-term capital gains, so you pay less taxes on them. You can do day trading, swing trading. That's trading based on like charting and technical analysis mostly, or upcoming news events. So that's obviously more risky. You're subject to short-term capital gains. Again, I'm not an accountant or providing any kind of financial tax advice, but if you hold something for less than 365 days, it's called short-term, and you're actually taxed at your regular income rate on that. Every trade's reportable to the IRS, just like when you trade stocks. Another way is to get involved with ICOs, often called crowd sales and token sales. These are like the real world, the other world, like IPOs, initial public offerings. Okay? It's the same idea. You're getting involved with a project or company early before they release their tokens. And usually, the idea is you're hoping to get them for a better price early. It's more risky because it's a new project. Your funds are tied up until the project's released and going. And obviously, once it actually does hit the exchanges, the price can be up or down by that point. So it's very speculative. Scams are also possible, and there have been scams of people doing fake ICOs and then running off with their money. So you want to do your research if you're interested in this aspect. You want to research the project, the team. Most of the time, they'll have what's called a white paper, and this will detail the team members, and then you want to go and research those people. Find their LinkedIn profile, find their other social media, what other companies and projects and have they been involved with in the past. And you want to make sure that it's real and that it's what you actually want to invest in. How to buy cryptocurrency. So you normally do that on an exchange. Popular ones include Coinbase, Bittrex, Gemini, Kraken, and Binance. The ones with the stars, those are exchanges that support US dollar deposits and withdrawals. So that's where you would start off if you had money and you wanted to convert it to Bitcoin or Ethereum or something to later convert to other coins if that's what you want to do. More and more we're seeing what's called KYC, which is Know Your Customer. So more exchanges are requiring you to register and sometimes upload your identification so they can prove you're a real person and who you are, where you live type of thing. They don't all do that. Usually you'll have limits in place that are much lower in terms of what you can transfer or take out if you don't officially verify yourself. Due to the huge demand, some exchanges are sometimes they pause new registrations for a while. So if you're interested in this, I would recommend, even if you don't know what you're doing yet, just get a head start and just register on some of these exchanges, because it could sometimes take a couple of weeks to actually get your account set up. The idea is the same as anything else like PayPal or whatever. You link it to your bank account through ACH, or you can use a debit or credit card. Now, that being said, a lot of banks are starting to cut back on allowing you to use a credit card to buy cryptocurrency. I don't agree with that. It's, your credit card's supposed to be used for whatever you choose to spend on it. They've given you an actual limit, so why should they tell you what you can and can't buy with it? But that's what they're doing. So that could be an issue. So in that case, you could still use usually a debit card or wire transfers or whatever. Then there's some other possibly shady methods. Local Bitcoins is a site, kind of like back alley transaction. You meet up with someone and you exchange Bitcoin for money. A friend would probably be the best option. There's some Bitcoin ATMs that you can find around. Usually the transaction fees are kind of high on that, but that's an option. Then I've never used these, but there's some online sites that are kind of interesting. You can buy or sell Amazon gift certificates or other gift certificates for Bitcoin. So that's one way if you have Bitcoin to sell or you're trying to buy Bitcoin in some more shady manner maybe. That would be a way to do it. Or you can literally just legitimately have products or services that you sell. So if you do consulting or you do programming or whatever, you get paid. You can actually get paid in cryptocurrency instead of regular dollars. Or if you do mining, that's another way. So this is just a screenshot of an example of using Coinbase. So it's really easy to use. You're just picking whether you want to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. You've already linked your bank, how much you want to buy. One interesting thing you can't really see, but You can put a repeat order, so that would be my recommendation if you want to get your feet wet, put a little bit of money here and there. Kind of do it on a smaller regular basis and just jump in all at once. Because of how volatile it is, you might be coming in at a high, and at least if you dollar cost average over time, that's usually better. This is an example of just an exchange. This one's called KuCoin, but it's just basically like a trading platform. Usually they're web-based. So you have your charting here, you have information about the order book, and then you can place your buy and sell orders. So again, if you want to just get your feet wet, find a couple of cryptocurrency projects that interest you. And we'll talk about soon how you can find some. Follow the projects, follow them on Twitter, join their Telegram or Slack or Discord channel, subscribe to their YouTube, so you really understand. It's good to see what kind of progress they're doing as well. So determine a small investment. Now the nice thing about cryptocurrency.
If I could just ask a question.
Sure.
At different times on the channel, the cryptocurrency channel in Slack, you've mentioned other Slack teams or Discord or Telegrams or anything like that. Are there any that, and obviously it's not an official endorsement, but are there any that you recommend or other resources you found helpful? No, I'm stealing your thunder for later in the presentation, I'm sorry.
You are, and that's okay.
All right.
That's a great question. So the question was, in case you didn't hear it, was, in terms of following people and getting involved in the community, let's say you want to get involved in trading and you want to learn from other traders, for example, that's my focus. I do have in my resources later some groups and some information like Telegram groups and stuff that you can join. So an interesting thing though when you're investing in cryptocurrency versus investing in stocks is you're buying fraction. Like if you want to buy Bitcoin, you don't have to buy an entire Bitcoin, which is, I don't know what it is, $9,800 or whatever. You don't have to do that. You can buy 0.0001 of a Bitcoin. So that's interesting because if you wanted to invest in stocks, and let's say you wanted to buy a share of Amazon, well, that's $1,400. So there's a pretty high barrier of entry for someone who wants to trade stocks. Whereas cryptocurrency, you could buy $1 or you could buy $10, whatever you're comfortable with. So here's a good place to start researching cryptocurrency. The site's called coinmarketcap.com. And it lists from market cap in order all the major cryptocurrencies. You can click on a specific one and it'll have a link to its website, a link to even their source code. It'll show you their price history, their market cap, circulating supply volume, all that information. So this is a good way to just first find your way and then just go down the rabbit holes from there. All right, so addresses and keys. This is kind of important to understand because this is not the same thing as having a bank account. You're storing your currency in what's called a wallet. So that comprises of keys. And I know a lot of people here are tech-based, so you guys know about SSL certificates and private and public keys. It's exactly like that. A public key is a public address.
Yep. For anybody who doesn't know those things, is there like an ELI5 for people who might be watching this later on YouTube?
Sure, so basically, a public key is a key that's okay to give to everyone. It's your address. So it's just like giving someone your phone number. Anyone can know it. It's how they know how to reach you, or in this case, how to transfer cryptocurrency to you. A private key is something only you know, and that's what gives you access to your wallet. So that's something you definitely don't want to share with anybody else, or they can have access to all your cryptocurrency. So public key, private key, wallet password, passphrase. So just important to note, because you might see that sometimes when you are setting up, let's say, a wallet password or a passphrase is not a public key. It's not the same thing. All it does is unencrypt your wallet. It's not going to help you restore your wallet to a different computer if you lose your files. Okay, you're going to need your private key to do that. So you have to make sure you back up your things. You want to back them up in more than one location just in case your hard drive crashes. In most cases, you don't want to leave it on your computer, especially your private key, because if your computer gets compromised, your private key's on there. So USB sticks, offline storage, encrypted containers, however you choose to store it. We'll talk about some of that soon too. So what does a wallet address actually look like? It depends on the currency. As you can see, some are really long, some are really short, but it's basically random, not random, but basically a bunch of numbers and letters. Okay, so how do you store it? Types of wallets. So there's hardware wallets, and this is the best kind. They're not that expensive. They're maybe around like $100 or something. And that is the most secure way to store cryptocurrency because not even you have your private key in this case. There's some seed words that you set up when you're first setting this up that you back up somewhere, and that would enable you to restore in case you lose your device. So if you lose your device, you're not completely screwed if you back up your seed word somewhere. However, if you do insert a hardware wallet into a computer that, let's say, has malware on it, they can't get your private keys. It's not in an available format. This is not like using a USB stick. So this is the most secure way to store cryptocurrency. And I highly recommend it if you're getting into the space to get one of these. Then there's web-based wallets. The most common one is called My Ether Wallet. And you would go there initially to create a wallet. It would then give you your public address, your private key, and a wallet file that you would back up. And then you can go back to the site to access your wallet. And again, you have to enter, either the file that you downloaded or your private key to access your wallet. Then there's software wallets. These are just applications that you would run on your computer. This is just an example of a Monero wallet. So again, it's just an application. You have a public key, private key. You can find it in the software, and you can access your wallet. And one thing I want to mention though, when you have, whether it's a software wallet or a web wallet, that's not where your funds are stored. So like if you're running this on your computer and it shows you have, let's say, $100 of Monero, that's not actually stored in this application. Okay? What this application is doing is retrieving your information off the blockchain. So that's really where your funds are. So even if you lose your computer, as long as you back up your private keys, you can restore your wallet anywhere else. And it just takes that information off the blockchain again. This is just another one. This one I like. It's called Exodus. It supports a lot of different currencies. It's easy to use. That's another option. Then there's ones for the phone, like there's Jacks, and there's other mobile wallets for your phone. Paper wallet is basically something you print out. It's not really different than anything else. I mean, your private key's listed there, your public key's listed there. But if you want to really keep your funds offline, you can print out a paper wallet and store that in a fireproof safe, for example. So let's talk about some security best practices. All right. I know you guys can't see this, but maybe some of you in the front. Can you tell me what website this is? Finance, anyone else? Okay, so, trick question. We're all being told, when you go to a site, make sure it's the real site, right? Make sure there's an SSL certificate. Check the spellings. Sometimes they replace L's with ones and zeros with O's, and you're not really on the real site, right? So there's a lot of tricks, and hackers are getting a lot more advanced. And this is just an example of something called Puni code, just another form of like ASCII code or whatever. And it's really hard to see, but under these two ends, there's a little dot. Really hard to see. So you're not really on Binance's site if you're here, which means someone's probably sniffing everything you're entering, including your password, and then they're just going to log in as you and take everything you have in there. So you got to be really, really careful. There's no protection. This is all decentralized. It's not like a bank where if your credit card gets stolen, you can call your bank and say, my credit card was stolen, or my debit card, they wiped out my account. Usually the bank fixes that for you, and you don't really end up owing anything, and they somehow replenish your account. That's not the same thing. You're responsible when you have cryptocurrencies. There's nobody else that you can turn to and say, hey, I lost my private key. No one knows your private key but you. So never click on links or URLs to exchanges or online wallets from anywhere. It includes email, chat, IMs, even from searching. Okay, type the address in yourself. Bookmark the site once you get on there so you don't have to type it again, or use a password manager, which is really the best option to protect yourself. As always, verify the SSL certificate, disable JavaScript, use private mode, just things in general. That's just general security practice. Enable two-factor authentication everywhere you can. Almost all the exchanges I've seen support that. So Google Authenticator, Authy. Avoid SMS authentication. There's been a lot of issues with that because phone numbers can be cloned and then they have your SMS. So you're better off using something like Google Authenticator.
And now, if I could just say that on the HackMiami YouTube channel now, if you just YouTube for HackMiami, Rod gave a great talk 3 weeks ago, just about that, about in-depth dive, deep dive of all the vulnerabilities surrounding multi-factor SMS authentication. So anybody who's watching this online or here, we encourage you to check that out. It was a really good discussion.
Definitely. So use a hardware wallet where possible. Store your wallet's private keys and passwords securely and in more than one place. And never give out your private key. There's a lot of tricks where they try to get you to enter your private key. Yes?
Be skeptical of QR codes.
Absolutely, that's a good point. Be skeptical of QR codes. Because again, you don't know what you're scanning. You can't see the address before you scan your phone on it. So that's a great point.
The block looks a little crazy. It's not the same way.
That's a very good point. So again, you're always better off just entering the address yourself because you know what you're typing in. That's really the best route there. If you're into trading, meaning you're accessing your wallets a lot, you're accessing exchanges a lot, then I would recommend you dedicate a PC or a virtual machine or something just for your trading activities. Especially if you have kids or things like that use your computer, that's always a bad combination, I'm sure. I have a parrot and a dog, so I don't know. All right, so when sending currency, you do want to also double check the sending address. I mean, you saw the wallet addresses before, right? I mean, there are some technologies now called like EDNS where they're actually words like you're used to, like they're not .com, but they're names. But you don't see that very often yet. So you're usually sending funds to a really long address. And there is malware that if you're infected with it, it'll change it on you without you really noticing. So you'll paste in an address that you're sending to, and it'll just replace it with their own receiving address. And if you don't catch that, you're now sending money to the wrong person. So again, you got to be careful. If you enable things like APIs on exchanges, APIs are what allow different, like let's say you have an app on your phone that tracks like prices of Bitcoin and maybe like how much you have it in exchange and things like that. It does that through an API. That's how it connects to the exchange. And when you set up your API on the exchange, they normally give you permissions that you can set. Because if you're using trading software, then you need to give the trading software more permissions than just something that's going to be just checking and reading information into your application. So when you do set up APIs, you want to give it the least amount of privileges that it needs. Be careful that you're not checking boxes like withdraw and those types of things. Okay, you only want to give it read access. Use a VPN if possible. IP whitelisting. So again, some exchanges, they let you specify what IP addresses you'll be connecting from. That's a good idea if you have a dedicated IP address. And these are just some links to the 2 hardware wallets that I showed earlier. And some links to the My Ether wallet. Remember, don't click it from here. Don't trust me either. All right, type that in yourself. Exodus wallet, and a reminder about storing your keys securely in more than one place. Here's a list of popular exchanges. So back to today's question about getting involved more and learning more about the industry or about specific projects or, yes?
I also like, real quick, to go back to the security piece.
Sure.
I like creating multi-tiers of cryptocurrency wallets that you can kind of manage, right? So let's say you had a wallet that you're like, oh.
You want the microphone?
No, that's okay.
Actually, can we ask this if you not do on camera, but if you can come up and say a statement into the mic. And we'll have that also for folks who are asking questions as well. And one quick announcement I'll just make before we go into questions. We've got a lot of new faces here. Welcome to HackMiami for anybody who's not been here before. Our tradition afterwards is we'll go out and we'll get drinks and dinner. When the meeting ends, we'll walk over together to Bull Market, which is about 2 blocks from here. So again, that's Bull Market. Come hang with us. Everybody is welcome. Go ahead if you want to put that into the microphone.
So just to add on to the piece of the security, what I was discussing was this concept of creating multi-tiers to your crypto wallets, right? So let's say you have a crypto wallet where you're going to fund your wallet with. So let's use one wallet for funding that, and then you're going to take the money from that crypto wallet and then send it to your, let's say, investments wallet, right? So you create a separate wallet and you start kind of compartmentalizing each of these wallets in a way that you can put particular security on them. If you don't expect that anybody's ever going to see your wallet that you fund, then you can put that in a certain area, and if anything ever happens with that, you get an email saying, oh, this account, this company's been compromised, something like that, you immediately know where you need to go to deal with your funding wallet, right? If your account gets compromised on a particular exchange, use a wallet that is pertaining to that particular exchange, right? You want to segment these crypto wallets that you use. I just wanted to add that. It's no big deal. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So anybody else, if you have comments, anybody, we like to keep these discussions really open. Just come right on over where that gentleman was standing, and we'll hand you the mic. You can comment or questions. We want to get it on the mic though, so it'll catch on the recording.
Okay, so this is just a list of some, really good YouTube channels that had industry information or on specific coins in case you're researching that. If you're into wanting to actually learn how to trade and do technical analysis, those are my favorites for learning through YouTube. There's a lot of other places. Like trading crypto is not really different than trading stocks or Forex. So if you have that kind of a background, it's the same thing. Or if you want to learn.
Hey Natalie, what's Forex?
That's beyond the scope of this presentation.
But
So
Forex
is the currency market. So trading like USD against the Japan dollar, for example. So the point I was trying to make though is when it comes to trading, as an overall general term, it doesn't matter if you're trading stocks or you're trading Forex or you're trading cryptocurrencies. When it comes to technical analysis, it's very similar. So you can learn from other sources, and I would say that some of the people or some of the courses out there that are for stocks or Forex have probably better traders than cryptocurrency traders in a lot of ways. So you want to kind of like look at more than just cryptocurrency traders. So here's some channels though that they mainly deal with cryptocurrency. Technical analysis, ICO, and point reviews. And some people that just generally talk on a regular basis about the industry in general. Andreas Antonopoulos, who travels the world talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency, basically educating people on his space, and his videos are very, very good. Coin Mastery is more of a daily type of thing, kind of a recap of what happened in the markets today type of thing, the market sentiment, what's going on, psychology as well as trading. I enjoy that one a lot too. Here's some websites that have a lot of information. So again, I will make these slides available. So you were asking about like groups other than our Slack. There's some free groups and some paid groups that I'm recommending here. Again, not officially recommending, but I mean, they're good to check out. Most of them are heavily weighted on trading though. So if you want to learn more about projects, then you're going to want to join the Telegram or the Slack groups of those projects. That's going to be a better way to learn about those. And then I included some terminology just so you can refer back to later.
And I'll just reiterate, so what she just said was not financial advice from HackMiami nor from her. These are resources she enjoys using.
Exactly. So just some final closing thoughts. Where I see us now in this time, in the beginning of 2018, all this exploded so quickly, and I don't think the industry, the cryptocurrency industry, is really ready for that explosion just yet. I would have liked if it would have gone on like it was last year for like another year or something. There's still a lot of development. There's still a lot of scalability issues. There's just a lot that's being worked on. It wasn't ready for prime time, but somehow it just became popular, really popular out of nowhere. And now the problem with that is people are they're hearing, oh, Bitcoin's good for transactions, and they're like, wait a minute, why does it take like an hour to send my money from here to there? If it's so, like, how is this better than PayPal? But the honest truth is, just like when the internet just sort of started, there wasn't a lot of bandwidth. Over time, as the need arose, scalability issues were fixed, and it became better and better and better. And that's where we're at. We're at the very early stages. We're like the internet before AOL right now. That's basically where this is. So again, also, because we're in such early development, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think that we've really seen a lot of institutional investors yet. And I do think there's going to be a lot more investing in the markets going forward. I hope. But I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to see. We have trading now and again. I don't want to get too much into trading, but futures trading you might have heard about. So there are things coming from the traditional Wall Street that are now becoming more involved in cryptocurrencies. And I think that's interesting. As for the future, I think whatever you see today is going to change a lot. I don't even know. I don't think anybody really knows how much it's going to change, what it's going to evolve into. but I do think it's going to be huge one way or the other. I think it's a paradigm shift in how things are getting done. Again, I think it's more institutional investors are going to enter. I think the market cap's going to grow. I think there's going to be a lot of work with private blockchains, companies that they don't want a public blockchain. Maybe they don't even want cryptocurrencies, but they like the efficiencies and other things that blockchain provides. ICOs, I mean, they're hot right now. I think they're going to be heavily regulated very, very soon. And unfortunately, I think that's probably going to end up going down the road where you have to be an accredited investor to invest in them. And I think that's too bad. Like, my personal opinion, not financial or legal advice, I think the whole accredited investor thing is kind of crap. I mean, why give, just to explain what an accredited investor is, it's someone who has, if I'm not mistaken, $2 million in assets, not including their house, or they make $200,000 a year, something along those lines. So that's basically taking out a large portion of the population who might want to get involved and might want to invest in some of these projects or some of these companies, and they're probably not going to be able to do it soon, at least not within the United States, because that's more of a US law. I think that's too bad, but unfortunately I think that's the direction that might be going. Doesn't mean you can't get involved later once it's on exchanges or whatever, but it's just something to keep in mind. I also think that because there's so many projects now, I mean, it's just like businesses, right? What do they say? Like, after 5 years, like 90% of businesses fail. It's not going to be any different. There's a lot of these projects are going to fail. Most of them will. The ones that stay on and are strong are going to do very, very well. But identifying those, it's a gamble like anything else. But I think as projects start to fail, that's going to start to, probably affect the sentiment a little bit. I think some governments are going to try to centralize their national digital currency. I mean, some are already trying that. It's not a bad or a good thing. It depends on why they're doing it. Again, blockchain does lead to a lot of efficiency, a lot of auditing and things like that. It could be a good thing, but it's not the same thing as cryptocurrency in today's. I don't think today's thing's going to go away because there's ecosystems being built that involve those particular tokens. You can participate in that particular environment or that particular website or ecosystem, right? So this isn't going to go away, but I think we're going to start to see more banks and maybe government coming out with their own thing. This is not going to replace banks. Banks are concerned about this technology, as they should be, not because it's going to replace banks. We're always going to need banks. But do we really need banks to provide lending? Why can't we wire money on a Saturday? I mean, there's a lot of limitations with banks, and I think people are going to find that things like cryptocurrency and blockchain are better methods sometimes, and they're going to lose some competitiveness in this marketplace. I'm pretty sure we're going to see privacy coins become more popular as there are more regulations and taxes. So I do think we're going to see that. A lot more decentralization. But either way, blockchain and distributed ledger technologies are going to have an enormous impact on our future.
What do you mean by privacy coin?
So, like Monero, you might have heard of Monero.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was to basically explain what a privacy coin is. So, Bitcoin, for example, they're all public blockchains, but there's different varying amounts of information that you can actually pull from them. So Bitcoin's not as private as people think. Like you can pull a transaction, and then because you can trace it back to where it came from, where funds came from, where funds went to. Sometimes you can draw a picture. You can get a lot more information there. Whereas, and there's probably people that can explain Monero better than me, but you don't get as much information. It's more hashed information and actually there. It's harder to actually view. So it is used more for the legitimate things too, like dark web or maybe money laundering. And I'm sure the governments are going to try to cut that out. But I still think that there's going to be heavy usage in that regard. Any other questions?
We'd encourage you, if you don't mind, asking your question to the mic. Otherwise, Natalie, if you repeat the question, either way is fine.
Yes.
How do you see this scaling problem solved in the future? Do you think that what we're seeing now with Bitcoin may affect other applications in the future when they grow?
Okay, so the question is how I see scaling in the future. Basically, it's the same thing like when the internet started, right? So you find your pain points. Right now, it's just you have to grow more, maybe more decentralized nodes, changes to. I'm not that technical when it comes to exactly how it's getting done, but it's getting done. It's getting looked at. It takes time. It's development, but the plan was never for it to be ready right now, here and now. All of a sudden, everybody wanted it here and now. But this is very, very early. This is like the Wild West. This is not, this is not ready. But when it is ready, that's going to be something. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
No more questions? Apparently my husband has a question. You're not cooking tonight? Oh, good, because we're all going out, so that's good. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Natalie. She put a lot of preparation into this and really did a stellar job. Some people get up here, and it's fine, and just have a white screen with some black text and throw it together 10 minutes before they came on. So big thanks to you. Put a lot of hard work in this. Are you willing to share these slides?
I will be posting them on Slack. If you're not a member of our Slack channel, like if today's your first day or something, just see one of us and we'll get you invited.
Awesome, and then we'll post, for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, look below. I'm sure we'll put the link in the comments or in the description of the YouTube page. If I could put a particular individual on the spot who's here, if he doesn't mind coming up and talking a little bit and just maybe sharing his thoughts about what's going on. And if he wants to do it off camera, that's fine too. But Dirk, would you be open to just sharing your thoughts on what's going on these days? You got a lot. You got a lot of money, and I'm a little bitter now. Hold on. Okay, so we'll put you on the mic. Would you prefer to be on or off camera?
I don't care.
Okay, come on up here. So everybody, this is another major contributor to our cryptocurrencies channel. He goes by Dirt, and he's a savvy individual. I'll brag for him because he's another humble individual. And this is also a gentleman who's recently had a very prominent role in bringing down a major botnet. So he knows his stuff both from security and from a cryptocurrency standpoint. So let me pass it off.
All right. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to say now.
So what I'd like to hear you say is just what are your thoughts on the directions of the market in general? What are your thoughts on where we are today with Bitcoin, let's say, versus 18 months ago? Why did it go up to where it was? Was there manipulation of the market? What are your thoughts on trading versus mining? One thing, I know for a while you were doing a lot of mining, and that seems to have changed recently, and I'm curious to hear why that is.
Mining versus trading. I don't mine anymore. I would also encourage you to stop.
Stop inflating our video card prices.
Yeah, you're ruining video games for everyone. No, I mean it's.
Except for those that own NVIDIA.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Stop mining. Let me buy some NVIDIA stock, and then start mining again. No, I don't encourage mining anymore. It took me a long time to figure out why people were trying to discourage me from mining. And basically, it's probably about the slowest and least efficient way you can make any kind of gains in the crypto markets. You buy your rig, it's going to have 6 months to break even, assuming prices stabilize and don't downturn and everything else. That may cost you $2,500, $3,000, depending on what kind of rig you're going to go for, maybe more. If you look at the prices of the coins that you would have been able to buy at that price point, plus inflation of the value of those coins versus coins that you hadn't been able to mine in the same time frame, you ultimately usually come out ahead so long as prices are trending upward. But you're not losing any more money than if you were running a mining rig, because you're just subsidizing the electricity and everything else by the offset of the cost of the coin, or the price of the coin you're mining. So it's a really roundabout way to make coin, and if you're willing to dump $200, $500, $800 into your electric bill every month, just take that same amount of money and put it towards coin. Because it is a break-even proposition, but the break-even proposition, you could have just bought coin and probably got more coin for the same amount of money. So that is why I get away from mining. Don't get me wrong, there are scenarios where mining can still be profitable, I tried to set up some shenanigans here where we might have been able to turn a profit by finding office space where the electricity was included into the monthly rent.
And by the way, that's the Hot Box channel.
That's the Hot Box channel.
So join our Hot Box channel. It's not the kind of Hot Box you might be thinking about.
Because then, right, if you can actually trick some landowner into allowing you free electricity for the price of a room, and you can pack that thing with enough rigs and divide that cost among multiple people, your profit ratios start to go up. I still don't know if you would be more profitable than just trading, or even in some cases just buying and holding.
So if you don't mind staying on stage, Natalie, I'm kind of turning this into like a conference moderator forum. If you guys are okay with that. Natalie, do you want to share your thoughts on that topic? And Dirk, please stay up there because we've got a few more questions for you if you don't mind my moderating. Is everybody cool to keep going for a little while longer? He's cool. All right, go ahead.
So I definitely don't disagree with that. That makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, from a hobbyist perspective, or from trying to learn how mining works or how everything got started in the first place, or I think from that perspective, it could be maybe just a small rig. And if you're not doing it to make money, then just want to learn how it works. But you can do it from your own computer too. I mean, your computer has a graphics card, so if you just want to learn, then that's true. That being said, I do also know people that have been very successful in doing what's called speculative coin mining. So, like right now, if you're just going to mine something like Ethereum, yeah, you're going to have regular, income coming in from that, and you can pretty much, calculate that. But if you're lucky and you start mining something, and again, it's speculative because you don't know if anything's going to come of that project, right? But if you start mining early, where you can actually mine a lot of coins while it's new, hang on to those coins, that can actually sometimes earn you a lot more than something traditional. So there's different ways to go about it. The other aspect is not everyone's a good trader. I'm still learning. I'm not saying that I'm a really good trader yet. So there is a bit of a risk, not only with trading, but even with holding, or hodling as it's called in the industry. You just don't know what's going to happen with the market. So, I mean, either way, when you buy hardware, you can sell your hardware. That's how I look at that as well.
The other side of that.
Can you pass the mic?
The other side of that, and the statement she made, which is very true, and part of the reason I stopped mining was that with all of these cryptocurrency deals, you basically have a finite set of resources. You have a dynamic group of people that are competing for those resources in the mining, and then you have a scaling window of difficulty. So when you're mining early on, your results are much more bountiful and plentiful and easier to achieve than, like, if you go home right now and try to mine a Bitcoin, you're never going to do it. And when you do it, if you do it, it will not be worth the amount of time, energy, investment that you actually did put in to ultimately get your sliver of Bitcoin. And that has to do with competition, difficulty scaling, and just how cryptocurrencies are designed to work.
Question?
So we've got a question over here from Miss Gizmo.
Can I add something to that?
You want to step into the camera, or do you prefer not to?
Up to you.
That's your choice.
I'll pass it down.
All right, so
Happy birthday!
So what I did is I took a little more passive approach. So Natalie invited me over to her house one day. I wanted to see her mining rig. So I walked in. I kind of had the idea of what a mining rig was. I saw them on TV, or on YouTube and such. But I walked in. She showed me her gnat cave and her mining rig, and in the corner of her gnat cave, there were NVIDIA boxes stacked up almost to the ceiling. So I went home and I bought NVIDIA stock.
And this is not financial advice from HackMiami nor from Miss Gizmo. It was something
But
that
it's
didn't
more
work out.
passive. I get to keep all of my stuff. I don't have the $800 a month electric bill, and I didn't lose $10,000 a day on Bitcoin. I get to keep my NVIDIA stuff.
Yeah.
Hold on, he was.
I have a quick question. When people start mining, is it essentially bad for the health of the network?
Yes.
Can you repeat that question for Mike, please?
He asked if when people scale down mining operations, is it bad for the overall performance of the network? And yes, those are your worker bees, right? So, and that's, I don't know, have they addressed that with Bitcoin? When mining begins, when it's no longer a profitable endeavor in traditional mining sense, when all of the coins have been mined, how is that going to work as far as?
I know for Ethereum they're moving to proof of stake, so I'm not sure about Bitcoin's future plans, but Bitcoin is more something where they have a finite amount of coins, and once they're all mined, there's not going to be any more mining anyways of those coins, which is going to probably help them even go more up in value because now they're going to be more scarce. But something like Ethereum, for example, started off as proof of work, which is through mining, and they are moving to a proof of stake algorithm method, which is basically instead of mining, you basically hold coins in your wallet. You keep that online for staking purposes, and that helps the consensus with the network. It helps you. You still have a participation in validating transactions. You're still part of the network, but you're not actually mining coins. It's called proof of stake instead. So a lot of projects are moving to proof of stake. It's better for obviously it's better for the environment, better for your electric bill. So there are solutions for that, yes.
That comment, can you talk to me on that, Dr. On or off camera? Sir.
Sir.
So mine's a two-part comment. I got one comment for you and one comment for you. So let's address your comment first. I think the idea of mining a coin early and holding on to it actually hurts the coin, right? Because the idea is, the reason that this coin is going to get popular and it's going to increase in value is because it's exchanging hands, right? So that's kind of like, yeah, like if you advise everybody to do that, then nobody's ever going to trade it, and then it's not going to get popular, and then we're going to be in this situation where you mine the speculation coin and it did nothing, right? So it's just a criticism, and it's fine. I mean, that might be a good strategy, it might not be a good strategy. And to address your piece about mining not being profitable, I think that mining can be profitable if your machine is not your own machine, right? So we can talk about, there's two things that I can think of that come to my mind really quickly, and you know this personally, right? Right, would be using a botnet to mine coin, right, would be one way. Or then the other way, which is another interesting take on it, is using JavaScript to use your customers' browsers to mine for you as well. So I just wanted to comment on those things.
Thank you for the question. So I'll address the first question, which was if you mine speculative coins and you don't sell them, how does that help anything?
Well, if you advise a bunch of people to mine these coins and hold on to them.
So if a bunch of people basically hold on to their coins. So my answer to that is it'll never happen that everyone's going to hold on to the coins. It's an economy, right? It's just like when you see Bitcoin going down, sometimes you just feel like screaming at your computer and say, stop selling. If you guys just all stop selling, we'll be fine, right? But you can't control everybody. Everyone has their own initiative. Some people have to cover the electrical costs, so maybe they'll keep some coin.
And there's people like me that are just getting in short positions.
Real quick, I just think it's an interesting take because we've had cryptocurrency talks throughout HackMiami for the entirety that we've been HackMiami, we've known about cryptocurrencies, but the talks have shifted from, buy this coin and go buy a pizza with the coin, or buy this. HackMiami at 1 year accepted cryptocurrency as a way to get into the conference, right? Because we wanted to make cryptocurrency this thing that people accepted and adopted. So I'm just merely saying that if we're giving advice that's like, I'm not saying HackMiami is giving this advice or whatever the case is, but I'm saying if you're giving advice that like a bunch of people should mine this thing and then hold on to it, that's like, it's an interesting paradigm shift from the talks that we had back then to what we're having now, where it's like, oh my God, you could have just found the next baby, or right.
The talks back then were also more like, mine this thing, and then you can use it to buy stuff online that you can't normally buy online. Not that I'm condoning any illegal activity, but it was, that was also a big part of the allure. And as it continues to go mainstream, and people start to look at it as an investment vehicle versus gold or silver or other options, or hedges against inflation, or money movement out of restrictive countries, China, then it begins to get more legitimacy. And now it's not just a little knick-knack on the side where you can, I can buy a pizza. Now it's like, I could potentially help myself with my retirement. Or I could lose it all in a day. So
yeah, interests have changed in this field, definitely. They've grown to a lot more interest, into a lot more areas than just mining or just holding or whatever. And whoever bought a pizza for Bitcoin years ago, that pizza is now worth $50,000.
yeah. When the market I gave a talk last year. It was $700, and it, bounced around, whatever.
And what was your prediction at that time?
It was not my prediction.
What was your
I was
estimate?
merely echoing analysts that I thought had logic behind them. They said 2,500 by end of year, and we all laughed. Oh, yeah, right. And then they said maybe it would hit 10,000, and we all, yeah, you're crazy. And then it did. So yeah, but at that point, a decent chunk of my Bitcoin was sitting in a casino because what the hell am I going to use it for? Screw it, I'll play poker online, and and then when that price shot up, you should have seen the panic in my eyes as I tried to withdraw my Bitcoin from that casino. It's like, I need to get this out of here.
I don't know if you want to address the other piece
Oh,
about
yeah.
botnets and JavaScript.
So yeah, if you have a botnet, you can make a lot of money in a lot of ways. One of them recently is crypto mining. As part of some of the stuff that I get to work on and do, we get to dig into different botnets and malware and everything else, and we're starting to see a significant shift from what used to be I will build a botnet for nefarious activities and attacking people to now it's just like I'll just build a botnet to mine stuff. And the beauty of that is that typically these people are mining to exchanges, and if you're mining to an exchange, you have to provide a wallet, and that wallet address has to be confirmed somewhere or hidden in the malware. So we can usually figure out what their wallet is as far as the exchange is concerned. Does not give us the ability to transfer. Sometimes does give us the ability to change settings. But even some small botnets that we found, don't know how long they'd been mining, but they had already made between $40,000 and $60,000. And this is off of like compromised routers and webcams. So if you were actively compromising large, powerful machines, or even just a lot of really small ones, there is a profit there, enough to drive them away from other forms of cybercrime.
We'll talk about the JavaScript piece too then.
Yeah, and the JavaScript piece. So if you're not running an ad blocker, which you should be, and you're not running Pi-hole in your network, thank you, Will, which you should be, you're probably already mining for people. Right now, they've done some research on it. They've started tracking libraries. You really need to get aggressive about blocking it if you don't want to participate in that kind of stuff. But top sites are mining in your browser when you're sitting there reading the news and looking around. So,
Hey Dirk, what ad blocker do you recommend, and what was that other app that you mentioned?
what?
Pi-hole?
Yeah. So there's Pi-hole, which is very good. You can run it. I run it in a VM on a Zen server.
Which there has been a HackMiami talk given about Pi-hole, so
Yeah, it's super user friendly. Basically, you deploy it on your network, and then you point your main gateway's DNS at that, and it does just DNS blocking at the. So when they attempt to go out to get the JavaScript payload or whatever, they can't resolve the domain that they're using for linking that. So unless they're pointing directly at an IP, which is very unlikely.
We had a comment or question,
Yeah,
Stefano?
so one of the things I found also is there's aside from the pop-up blockers, they are actually cryptocurrency blockers right now for a lot of different browsers as well. And specifically, all they do is they look for the JavaScript.
Yes.
Specifically, all they do is they look for the JavaScript that's actually trying to actually do the mining itself. So just want to bring that up.
Yeah.
And this gentleman is a regular member, and he knows what he's talking about.
And uBlock Origin is my ad blocker of choice for desktops and everything else. And don't just install it and be like, we're good. Go into the settings and there's third-party lists and basically just check all of them.
Awesome.
And yeah, between that and Pi-hole running on my network, I rarely see an ad. I can't say never, but rarely.
If I visit somebody's house and they don't have those two things running, I'm immediately like, what are you doing with your internet time, bro? This is a waste of my time.
on mobile, I forget the name of the app. It's very good. Let's see here. AdGuard.
Oh, yes.
You can pay for it. Doesn't require a root. Basically sets up a local VPN
Which
with
OS is
DNS
that?
blocking and stuff
Android.
and loops back. I think it's only on Android.
Okay, do you have
If you
any
run Apple and you want to
recommendations?
block ads, then you should probably just get a new phone. Yeah. Or maybe, can you even jailbreak them anymore? I haven't been paying attention.
Probably.
We've got a.
What about those times when you go into those cafes such as Starbucks and in their homepage, they're even doing their own crypto mining again through those 2 lines of JavaScript? How would you protect yourself from that? Or is that just the cost of doing business and getting free internet while you're at Starbucks?
Don't use their internet.
Use your mobile hotspot on your cell phone. Don't trust public Wi-Fi. If you have to trust public Wi-Fi because you don't have cellular signal, connect and do what you got to do through like an incognito browser to get your session established, and then immediately transfer over to a VPN or some trusted hop. Don't trust anything across those networks ever.
So, real quick on that, aside from running Pi-hole on my Raspberry Pi, actually it's dual purpose, it's also running PiVPN. And so with PiVPN on my phone, as soon as I hop on the Starbucks network or anybody else, I can immediately activate that.
I think what Francisco's saying here is that in order to use the captive portal, they're going to inject JavaScript on the captive portal for you to be able to use their Wi-Fi, right?
But you're talking seconds. I mean, realistic. It's not like you have to leave that open.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
fire up an incognito window, try to go to somewhere. They're gonna get caught by the captive portal.
I think on OS X now they even have the captive portal thing built into their Wi-Fi detection.
They do.
So like I don't even know what browser that runs in. I guess like a headless Safari. Well, it's not
Yeah.
headless obviously, but
But you're right.
so I don't know if that overlaps with like your personal data that you have stored in your sessions. But
Yeah.
Just about the JavaScript mining though, I mean, there's 2 different ways to look at that. Yes, there's the malicious aspect of it where you don't know what's going on. And then there could be an ad generation replacement type model where you do know it's going on, like in their cookie or privacy policy or whatever. The site says, hey, our content is free. We're not going to bombard you with ads. You don't have to pay to see the news articles on this site. All we ask is while you're browsing our site, your browser is going to be using some of your CPU or GPU power to do some mining. There could be some business models where that might make sense if they're upfront about it, and maybe it's better than looking at ads. I don't know. I mean,
But I want everything free.
but I want everything free.
well, I mean, honestly,
Programmers should
would you
program
not
for
let
free.
Wikipedia just mine on your machine a little bit instead of having to see that dude bake for $3 like every 3 weeks? It's crazy. It is crazy how often they. But I mean, I understand why. But yeah, mine away, man. Mine away.
It's true.
Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to watch 4chan do terrible things to people's histories. All right.
Okay, so are there any additional
I
questions?
think-
It's not security related though.
Yeah, go for it.
So, first of all, who were those investors you had a year ago?
I don't remember. It's been over a year at this
What
point.
was the question there?
He was asking who were the analysts that I was
Following.
echoing,
Yeah.
and I don't remember when I was doing my first kind of like, all right, let's really dig into this crypto thing, and wasn't even my idea. It was a friend that was like, hey, have you heard of this thing called Monero? And I'm like, absolutely not. And then I went down the rabbit hole of like investment and trading and analysts and understanding markets and everything else. So,
And this is
yeah.
this is who I mentioned. I think you came in late, but I did give you a shout out at the beginning of my presentation because you're talking about it here at HackMiami is what gave me the curiosity bug to start looking into cryptocurrency. So thank you.
You're welcome. I've created a monster.
The other part of that question, the real question now, this is for both of you. I apologize for not asking earlier. Where do you see the blockchain technology solving? I've seen now the traditional foundation that Bitcoin was built on, and now looking at something like the Tangle that Toyota is using. Very interested to see what somebody
this is where we're going to disagree greatly.
Could you summarize the question that the gentleman asked?
He asked about where do we foresee the future of blockchain and how different implementations will scale and grow and do things in the future. Okay, I'm gonna go first because I don't want to sound like an ass after trying to follow her and making it sound bad. I think blockchain is awesome. I think it's overhyped right now. I think that a lot of people don't quite understand what it is, how it works, and it's turned into kind of a buzzword. Like, I hear IBM talking about blockchains in the cloud, and I want to fucking shoot myself. So, it's kind of a mix. I think there are some really interesting cases. I have yet to find a case with Ethereum smart contracts that I'm like, yeah, I'm always like, I could do that easier with just like a regular server. So that part for me is kind of a non-starter. I have lacked vision. I thought Twitter was the worst piece of garbage I'd ever seen when I first saw it in beta. So I can be very wrong, apparently. But for me, the financial implications of it are cool. The historical implications of it are cool. I think what a lot of people are trying to do with it is kind of far-fetched and not its best utilization. And some of the other coins that are kind of using it, and I guess, now that I think about it, it may kind of be like a smart contract in a sense. Some of the other coins and some of these other new stuff that's coming out, they're basically trying to commoditize via blockchains and cryptocurrencies, like mesh networking and decentralized storage of files and decentralized, or not mesh networking, but like computing, massive parallel computing. Like there's MadeSafe is one of the coins. I gave a talk about the interplanetary file system here a while ago. So somebody's basically taken the interplanetary file system and mixed it with a crypto coin, and that could be really cool. It would basically be, you know, you put your file up there, and you might need to purchase a coin to do it, but it will be chopped up and encrypted and distributed across all kinds of places and can be shared easily, and you can't take it down. You know, like this is like Pirate Bay Wet Dream in a way, because, you know, good luck, you can't take it down. And not only that, people are incentivized to leave it up, because every time that you're pulling a piece of that file off of them, there's a chance they get a piece of profit out of it, which they can turn around and sell to people that need to store stuff in a distributed and not censorable format. So, yeah, there's me talking a lot of crap about blockchains.
Before we switch to Natalie, how are you folks doing? Would you like chairs to sit in since this is extended? Okay.
So I don't disagree with what Chad said, and I did kind of mention briefly when I was talking that not everything should be on the blockchain. So I do think there's a lot of projects and companies that are just trying to take advantage of the popularity of that term and try to kind of like pigeon it into what they're doing just so they can say they're doing it.
Natalie, I don't know about you, but I won't drink a beverage anymore unless it's a blockchain beverage.
The blockchain tea?
It just doesn't taste the same.
So to go back to like the blockchain mangoes, right? Like the blockchain mangoes, like for validation and confirmation and tracking and stuff, I think it's a fantastic idea. I just don't know if a blockchain's needed to achieve that system, and that's, I also don't understand why a consumer or a third party, I don't understand how it would generate value beyond adoption. Like there would be no value generation for the coin or whatever commodity it's backed by. So like once again, I think you're just better served by a database and streamlining and improving scanning of the mangoes and storing of the mangoes and shipping of the mangoes.
So the thing with that though, if you have a single database, or the point is to be controlled by a single entity.
Yes.
Okay, that's the whole purpose of decentralization and trustless networking. That's what the blockchain is for. People don't have to know each other, they don't have to trust each other, but they find a way to have consensus that yes, this is a valid transaction, we're gonna write this to the blockchain. Once it's written there, nobody can go back and change it. That's the power. So again, that's not necessarily needed in every business model, but there's some models where you want verifiable proof that something was done at a certain time. Let's say for voting, or let's say in the example with the mangoes, if it was only one company controlling that, well, maybe they're worried they're going to get sued because of their poor health practices, or that's why everything got contaminated. So they're going to go changing some things around in the database, and you're never going to know about it. If everything's stored on the blockchain, number one, that can't happen. Number two, we're talking about a lot of different pieces. If you think of where mangoes, from the farm to whoever collects them from the farm, to the truck they're driven on, to where they're stored, and then the plane, and then they end up here, and then they end up in the distributor, and then to the super. The food chain is just, distribution channel is so huge. So many different companies, you can't now depend on one person's accounting or one person's database. And those types of models, I think, are where we're going to see blockchain used in a very good way.
Yeah, I mean, the immutable nature of it, that is definitely a benefit.
And the participants.
Yeah.
Multiple consent.
Can you explain SIGWIT?
No.
Can you repeat?
No, I can't. Segregated witness. She wants to know about SegWit, and I could try it, and I would do a terrible job and probably be wrong.
Can you mention what that is? I don't know what that is, for example. Others watching this on YouTube may not
My
know.
understanding of segregated witness is that you basically have mini consensuses. So instead of needing to have all of this consensus, you basically have trusted groups of peers. But like I said, please don't let me just dig. I'm just going to dig myself into a hole of wrong if I keep down that path.
Is there anybody else here at the meeting that has knowledge about that would like to speak about it?
Sorry.
It's basically a change. I know that it is a change to the network that is meant to improve performance and cut back on the overhead requirement for essentially validating transactions in the blockchain.
Okay. This gentleman had a question?
Protection against malware with your receiving addresses. How do you know if you're infected or not? Everybody talking about it, what tools do you use to protect yourself, scan your computer?
Can you repeat that question or summarize the
He
question?
wants to know what tool
Probably
would
McAfee, right?
you he wants to know what tool you would use to deal with the malware that's flipping addresses when you're entering transactions.
JavaScript blockers for that.
Yeah, I mean,
It was a little quiet. Can you say that in the mic, Natalie?
So in general, I mean, whether you're talking about this area or just computer security in general, some of the advice we talked about, like having ad blockers, a lot of those also block JavaScript, or if you're using an incognito window, a private window in Chrome or Firefox, it's not running scripts. There's other add-ons that you can use to prevent that as well. A lot of those things are done client-side through code on the web page, especially the web pages being compromised in a lot of cases. So if you're protecting your browser from actually running that code, like a JavaScript blocker, or just blocking JavaScript in your browser completely, and just whitelisting the sites you actually need it on, that would be one way of protecting yourself.
Change your user agent and they'll serve you the wrong malware.
Yeah, that gets a little, I mean, there's a lot of tricks you can do, but in terms of changing the address, I mean, that's something you can visually see, but a lot of people don't really look at it because they know they paste, they copy and paste, so they know they copied it, they paste it, and they don't really look at it that carefully and notice that it's now a completely different address. So being aware that it can happen is really like a really good first step, because now it's going to make you look at it more carefully. Same thing with the hardware wallets. It's the same idea. Like it asks you, like I have a ledger, for example, and it'll ask you to confirm the transaction, and it'll show you, if I recall, the first few and the last few of that long address. So it can't fit the whole thing on there, but that's good enough for you to visually look at it and then be sure that, yeah, okay, that's where I'm sending to.
I have a few more maybe just discussion point questions to ask, but before I do so, do we have additional audience questions? Okay, so one thing that it's a little bit more of a noob question, but I'm a noob to this, is what coins are you folks investing in currently? What different altcoins, where do you see them going? Again, not being financial advice, just your personal opinions or what you yourselves are doing. So the mysterious gentleman off screen is welcome to chime in as well. If one were just starting out now and wanted to hold some coins, what would you recommend to get started? Again, not financial advice, just your opinion.
So the question is about what coins to invest in, what coins we're invested in, and really, I'll give you a short and a longer answer. The short answer doesn't matter what we're invested in. And in terms of myself, because I'm more of a short-term trader, whatever I tell you today might be completely different tomorrow or next week. So it doesn't really matter what I say I'm invested in personally. If you're interested in the space, no matter what, you're going to have to do your own research. Just don't go by what someone says. And, you know, there's a lot of shilling on the internet where everyone's like, buy this coin, there's great things happening next week, and great pump and they're called pump and dump. So I mean, you want to do your own research anyways. It doesn't matter what I'm doing or what anybody else is doing. In one of the slides, I showed coinmarketcap.com. That's a great place to start researching coins. Just list them in order of market cap. So obviously the ones that have the most volume and the most market cap are the most popular, probably the more legitimate ones. And then as you work your way down, those are the newer projects, more speculative, more risky, and just do your own research. If a project sounds interesting, do a little more digging, and then if it's something you like, great. But I would not go by what other people say without actually doing your own research.
So, color me shocked, but you mean to tell me that a cryptocurrency backed by the Venezuelan government is not a good idea to invest in?
So to answer that, tell me how their dollar's doing.
Dirk, do you have any commentary on that? As far as just
Can you eat the Venezuelan coins?
Thank you. Can you live in them?
Can you live in them?
Live in them.
So the coin that I started this whole path down is still my number one go-to, Monero. For those unfamiliar with Monero, it's privacy-based. That's the entire thing with it, is protecting the identities and transaction information as much as possible, and making it hard to figure out who sent who what, how much it was. It does this with various techniques. So, with Bitcoin, there were coin tumblers and then all these other things, coin joins and stuff like that. And all of that's just built into Monero. So, the reason when my friend asked me about it 2 years ago, a year and a half, I don't know, it's been a while, was because he was interested in it and the privacy implications of it, and I thought it sounded pretty cool. And I continue to be a speculation person that thinks it's going to see valuation when it gets fully adopted by the black market, as it's already started to get adopted by the black market. So, where there are things that people can't have and they want them, and they want to buy them, there will be value, I believe. You can admire the American drug war, if you would like. Huh? Yeah, I haven't even been paying attention. I told you, I've been pretty bummed out.
What was the comment
recently? Monero's forking?
Monero's forking. Okay, for anybody who couldn't do that before.
Yeah, and
what's a fork, and what does that mean for
goodness.
cryptocurrency 101? What are your thoughts on forks? And
I love forks. They're good for
you
me.
gonna leave this with me? Alright. So
You're welcome
fork,
both to comment.
you've got your blockchain, right? Boop, 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 boop. And then it gets to this pivotal point. There's all kinds of tiny little forks that can happen, and chains will become invalidated. And basically, when they do a hard fork, they basically say, listen, we can't have a consensus between these working groups. We saw this with Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And they take the blockchain up to that point, and one team says, we're going this way, and the other team says, we're going this way, for whatever reason. And whichever coin you essentially choose to adopt at that point, you're either sticking with the old and saying the old technology and the old ideas are going to continue to work fine, or you're going with the new for whatever reason they needed to fork. So in cases like Monero, I honestly haven't been following it, so I don't know what this fork's about. I don't know if they're rolling out some kind of new thing, and it makes continuing the old blockchain incompatible, so they have to pivot, and maybe there's some, I honestly don't know.
Last I heard, I don't know, this was a while ago because I haven't been following that either, but I think Monero came out and said that they're not really associated with that fork and they're not really supporting it. So there's a lot of politics like in any other industry, so anybody can really fork something. It's mostly open source code. It doesn't mean that the core project or the original project has to necessarily agree or support it. They just go on their own way. In terms of being a trader, great. I mean, you get extra coin. It doesn't mean you don't get double the Monero. You'll just get probably like an equal amount of the new coin, which is not necessarily priced the same as Monero. So it's not like you're doubling.
It could be double the Monero, but the double the coin is worth one Monero.
Yeah, the coin's
so
a
2 for 1
right.
is the same. Cost is the same thing.
The coin's a completely different coin, so it's
Right.
not like you're doubling your value, but you're getting an equal amount of coin that's now some new coin that may or may not do well. I mean, it's free to take it, right? If you have Monero anyway, take it.
Well, and like people did that with the Bitcoin fork, right? So if you had all your stuff sitting in Bitcoin, if you were on an exchange that represented, or not represented, but acknowledged that fork, you basically, whatever your Bitcoin was, it got doubled, and then you could turn around and sell the other one back into your Bitcoin holdings, but the prices weren't 1 to 1. So yes, you had equal amounts of both of these things, but one of these things was not worth as much.
So if you folks are up for a few more questions, and anybody who gets bored here, you can come back around and meet us at Bull Market a few blocks down after we're done. What is Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? Just another. What's the difference between the two? Can you explain your opinions on either of them?
So again, that's also like kind of a political situation. People have varying opinions on that too. Bitcoin Cash, however, is not seen as exactly the same as Bitcoin. It's seen as something that's actually a little more centralized than Bitcoin is, a little more controlled, and that's why a lot of people in the community don't really like it. So there's that. Bitcoin Cash is trying to solve some problems that Bitcoin currently has with scalability. However, Bitcoin already has plans to fix those scalability issues. So like you'll start hearing soon about Lightning Network, which is something that works on top of Bitcoin.
I was just about to mention that.
To help to speed up a lot of transactions. And I'm not very technical, so I'm not going to go into the details of the intricacies of that. I mean, you can Google Lightning Network, for example. But the point that I'm trying to make is everything that Bitcoin Cash is saying about how they're much better than Bitcoin, I mean, that's not going to last long, and they don't have, in my opinion, the same support that the actual Bitcoin has. And Bitcoin is working on the scalability issues, just like Ethereum is, just like every network is, just like the internet was when it first started, to where it is now. Whoever thought the internet would be what it is today. I think things are going to keep moving forward in positive ways. It's hard to predict what's going to win. There's this term called a flippening. Sometimes they're referring to flippening, meaning like who has the highest market cap, or which is the biggest coin. So right now that's Bitcoin. When the whole Bitcoin Cash thing was out, a lot of people were saying, hey, Bitcoin Cash might actually take over Bitcoin. Sometimes they'll say that about Ethereum. If Ethereum is doing really well, they'll say, hey, there's a lot more use case right now for Ethereum than Bitcoin. So sometimes you'll hear that term being used. There's just two things about that. Number one, it doesn't really matter. I mean, different coins also have different uses. So even if, I mean, there's no winner. I mean, there's one that might be good for payments, and there's one that might be good for smart contracts. There's one good for privacy. There's one good for something else. There doesn't have to, it's no such thing as a winner. I mean, they're just talking about market cap. That's it.
And to go back to that about the different use cases for different coins, it is a marketplace, right? So it's not like the USD is strong and therefore the yen is weak or anything else. You know, you can take an amount of yen and convert it to USD and vice versa without really incurring much of a hit. And I think for crypto coins, you're going to continue to see that kind of ecosystem emerge where these different purpose-built coins, in the case of fiat currencies backed by governments, in the case of cryptocurrencies, either specifically targeting some kind of problem or potentially the platforms and other stuff that we saw with like the IPFS coins and stuff. So.
Where do you see cryptocurrencies going in terms of government usage? I mean, is there a trend going there?
Yeah, and since the mic's over here, if you could just repeat that since the recorders are
You know what? I would love to, and I don't think we'll see it, but I would love.
What was the question, Dirk?
He was asking where do we think we'll see cryptocurrencies go in terms of government usage versus not regulation, usage. Okay, so I would love to see governments adopt cryptocurrency for, even if they're not using it externally, they should use it for some kind of internal ledger system that us, the voters, can see the results of, right? Because just like they can cook the books and they can buy $10,000 toilet seats, you know, that kind of abuse would be pretty obvious if that ledger was actually open and public, and you actually had citizens that spun up notes and monitored the announcements coming into and out of that network about how they're spending their money. It would definitely expose abuses. It would definitely expose corruption. And I am all for it because they are wasting a shit ton of our money.
Dirt for president.
Make cyber great again.
Yeah.
Starting
Crypto-
cyber
make
great.
crypto great again.
Yes.
It worked out.
The platform.
All right, any other questions?
Well, yeah. So, do you have any commentary on that? Feel free.
I do think, like I said earlier, I do think governments are going to try to come out with their own cryptocurrency, and I don't think it's a bad thing, and I don't think it's going to change or replace anything that's going on right now in other business activities.
So we'll wrap here shortly. I've got a few more. Anybody else in the room that any additional questions come up? So I got two more.
We've also seen, what's the name of that one coin? Ripple? Is it Ripple?
Yeah, that's
That
exactly
everybody's
my next
going
question.
crazy
That's
about?
exactly what I was going to ask you. What
Okay,
are your thoughts
so
on Ripple?
this is an interesting use of cryptocurrency in a way that basically goes completely against the grain of what cryptocurrency was all about when it started. And it's basically some big banks got together and they were like, man, doing all this international banking stuff is annoying. Let's make a coin and it'll speed everything up. And like, it's working, I guess. I don't know what their value is at this point.
About $1 a coin.
About $1 a coin, but supposedly this is going to be like the banker's coin. Not from a standpoint of you as a consumer will typically hold it, but my understanding of it, and this could be wrong, is that they're basically using it to speed up international wire transfers and anything involving sums of money between banking institutions, because it's all there. You've got everything you need. You've got your open ledger. You've got your confirming that the party wanted to send this stuff, whereas wire fraud right now is crazy.
So, and are either of you invested in Ripple, or just personally, if you don't mind my asking?
I think that question is irrelevant and we should move on.
I'm not out of principle. It's probably a poor decision on my behalf, but out of principle, I will not invest in it.
Out of principle, I do stay away from it. I have been trading here and there. Got stopped out recently though.
Come on, you didn't hear Jason Noob say it was going up to $7? You haven't jumped in yet?
Right?
Come on.
Is he really?
He said that last week, or whatever we had the last meeting.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly fit into the whole decentralized and the whole trustless and the whole. It has its use, just like governments might have a use for cryptocurrency. Sure, banks have a great use for cryptocurrency. Is it going to be Ripple, or are they just going to fork it and do their own, and it doesn't matter what Ripple you're holding now anyways? You know, who knows?
Can I just comment real quick? So,
All right, step on it. Come on, yeah.
All right,
Get on that camera.
all right.
This
So
is ace, everybody.
the question that you asked earlier, I think, was interesting, Dave. Is the first question you posed to these two was, what are the current cryptocurrencies that you guys are interested in and trading off of? Right, was more or less the question you asked. What are you interested in? What are you investing in right now? So I think at the end of the day, it boils down to like. If you're an investor and you're going to invest in XYZ coin, if you're a good investor, you're going to do your research and you're going to figure out what it is that you think is going to perform well. But ultimately, I think what it boils down to, right, like Dirk got invested in this because he saw Monero, he saw the problem that Monero was trying to solve, and he was interested in that space, and so he got invested in that. So I think at the end of the day, what it boils down to, do I invest in Ripple, do I invest in Bitcoin, do I invest in this? It's like, no, like go out, figure out what matters to you, and if a particular project speaks to you, then invest in that and try to push that forward, right?
It's a more volatile stock market, right? You don't go around and pick a stock because, well, some people probably do, sadly.
It is.
Because you like the logo of the company or
the
something.
the letter assignment that they got for the stock symbol. And people invest based on those things. Are those smart or safe investments? I would say no, right? But can people get rich or can people make profit off that? Absolutely, right? Like you can absolutely just be like, oh, this is a stock I'm gonna invest in, and then 2 weeks later you make a boatload of money, right?
Or you lose all.
Or you lose a bunch of money, right? But a smart person who's gonna invest in something, take their hard-earned dollars, and then put their money into a cryptocurrency or a stock is gonna be like, all right, well, I'm going to do this. They look like they're profitable. What is the company doing, or what problem are they going to solve? And the same thing goes to a cryptocurrency as well, right? I think that's what. I just want to say that real quick, and that's all.
And there's a lot of people out there that they don't even know what the problem is they're going to solve. What their problem is right now is that they need more of your money. So be wary. Look into the coins that you might consider investing in.
Scrutinize everything.
And yeah, and you know, it's not always a case of like, I have faith in this and that means it's going to work. There are shady people doing shady stuff in an unregulated market where you have potential to earn and lose a lot of money. So keep that in mind. I personally don't look at most of the altcoins because half of them I think are just a bad idea and the other half I'm afraid are scams. So I kind of stick to my trusted. Once I see once I see more widespread adoption and stuff, then I get more interested. I still haven't drank the ETH Kool-Aid.
So also, just keep in mind, though, there's also a difference between investing and trading. And I'll explain that a little bit by saying there's a difference between technical analysis and fundamentals. Fundamentals are when you look at a project or a company and you look to see what they do, what problem they're solving, where do you think they're going to be in several years. And you're looking at all of that, how solid are they type of thing. Trading, through technical analysis, is different. It's more short-term, because even good companies have their downs, right? So trading's more short-term, and you don't necessarily care as much about the project. It's more about the opportunity. So it's more about looking at the charts and determining through various things like volume and whatever. And if you think it's going to go up based on that, you might make a trade based on that. And that's more short-term. And that's different than investing in something that you really believe in. So that's just, there's two sides of it.
Well spoken.
What's that?
Well spoken.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great advice.
So, one more question before we wrap here, and if there's any other audience questions. Well, let me ask that first and open for, are there any other audience questions? The final thing I'll say is, what about market manipulation? There are articles about, this one guy was able to push around Bitcoin, and that's the reason why it went up to 18,000, went down. What are each of your thoughts on market manipulation in general?
It's going to happen in an unregulated market.
It happens in regulated markets.
Yeah.
It happens everywhere.
You think when Wells Fargo or Goldman Sachs,
starts pushing around buttons and things start moving, that they don't have some effect on the market that they can in turn cause some kind of swing or manipulation that they can benefit from? I mean, they can't come out and say it, but the fact that you have whales make big splashes. And just the ETH flash crash, everybody remembers that? That was a whale, I'm telling you. Everybody's speculative about what it was. That was a whale, probably making a mistake, definitely exiting every position he had, and definitely had a lot of ETH. Because what he basically did was he took every ETH coin he had, we assume, we hope, holy shit, and he basically just liquidated the sale books. So the way these markets work, I have a price and there are people that want to buy this thing from me. If I place a market order and that market order scales with the price of the highest price of somebody that's willing to pay, right? So I can take all of my coin, put them on the books, and what he basically did was liquidated the sales book. So the person bought at 138, and the next person was willing to go to 137 and 36 and 35 until the price just went. So there's always going to be manipulation. I've seen the articles that you're talking about the single entity that was driving it. What's the one coin too? There's one coin that basically has built in it's not Ripple. Is it Dash? They basically take a certain amount of the coin that is mined every month and then use it to reinvest into themselves to inflate their prices and stuff. Like that's part of their business model. And they're like, well, somebody's gonna do it, might as well be us. It's our coin.
EOS has their.
That's not really what they do, but that's how I view it.
EOS, which is another popular coin, they have like a year-long ICO where there was some controversy at first, but why do you need so much money? But they're actually, they have an interesting concept that they're actually going to be using those funds to pay for to actually pay developers to actually pay for marketing and do do a lot of things. So there's you know, depending on what Dash is doing, it might not be exactly the same thing, but in terms of manipulation, that is everywhere. It's not just in cryptocurrency. It's a little easier in cryptocurrency because it's a smaller market. It's easier for one big person to affect the prices more than other markets, but it happens at a more professional level everywhere else. So.
Well, and now you're starting to see the big investment companies come in. These are your big boys. They will splash all over the place, and they will be able to come into that market, and it's not regulated for us. It's definitely not regulated for them, and they have what we would refer to as buku money. So they are going to be able to make a lot of waves, especially in the short term.
Yeah, what we're probably going to start seeing more also in the crypto markets is algorithmic trading, so automated trading, which is seen a lot now in like stocks and forex, and that's actually going to stabilize prices a lot more. So it's going to be an interesting change, but that's something else that's
I don't
going
know
to be
if
coming.
it's going to stabilize prices.
Robots trading? How can that go wrong?
Yeah, we've seen them do flash crashes on the stock.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it won't be flash crashes, but,
Yeah.
but in general, it might be that.
Yeah. Well, and
That kind of thing is already happening, and it's the most annoying crap when you're just a regular human. It's the most annoying stuff. Like, there's nothing worse than being like, okay, here we go. It's time to make my trade. Let me put my limit order up. Let me do my thing. And then all of a sudden you see, like, whatever your order is plus 0.01. Whatever your order is plus 0.02, 0.03, 0.04, 0.03, 0.02, and it's like, oh, you stupid bots. Can you just leave it to the humans? They can't. What is your prime directive?
Take me to your leader.
So before we wrap here, are there any other audience questions?
Oh, thanks. So let me come up here. Stay on up here for a moment, and we'll close things out. So what I'll say is thank you, first of all, to everybody who's come out today. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to our impromptu presenters, Dirt and Ace. These folks are not just competent in cryptocurrency, but they're also competent in InfoSec.
I'm not competent at cryptocurrency at all. Like, at all.
Well, okay, but so you get the best of both worlds, and I think it's a unique blend. So this is, for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, this is taking place at the Broward County Main Library in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Our group is called HackMiami, and you can check us out on meetup.com or on hackmiami.com. This is a reminder also for the folks who've come in that we have the HackMiami conference coming up, and the details are on hackmiami.com. There's been a lot of interest expressed in crypto lately when we expressed it on the channel or we've taken informal polls. So the next two, I believe, meetings that are coming up, which are on the meetup.com schedule of events. I don't know exactly when they are, approximately 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks spread out with each one. They're both on cryptocurrency as well, I believe. So come out again if you've enjoyed this. We thank you all for coming. Ask everybody who wants to join us at Bull Market. We'll wander over there. And thank you again to everybody. HackMiami.org as well to check out, but .com will have the information about the conference, I think. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, everybody.